Hi, my name is Caitlin Breathwaite. I'm going to be your presenter today, and what I wanted to go over for the topic is coronavirus, or also known as COVID-19. So, as we all know, the whole world is being affected by this, and most of you watching this are probably in quarantine right now. So, there's not much we can do. So, while we're in quarantine, why don't we take some time to learn about what coronavirus is and how we can prevent it? So, I'll go over the agenda. We're going to go over what coronavirus is, the facts and statistics, preventative measures that we can take, and go over all the information again. Alright, what is COVID-19? So, COVID-19 was recently discovered in Wuhan, China on December 1st, 2019. And so what they think it is a respiratory illness that has similar effects like the flu. So it has common symptoms of the flu, but it could be a little bit more intense. And so people who do get infected do have mild to moderate symptoms, but that does depend on the age range, and we will go over that more throughout the previous slides. But when people do get this illness, they do recover most of the time without any special treatment. So most people just have to stay home and rest, while some people might have to be hospitalized. So it definitely depends on age range as well. And then along the lines with that, people who do have underlying health issues are the people who are most at risk, like cardiovascular disease and immune deficiency, respiratory issues. So things like that are going to play a huge part into how it affects certain people. Alright, how does it spread? So first off, it spreads from infected people. So if you come in contact with someone who is infected, who may or may not even know it, they can infect you as well. So a lot of times that is from droplets of saliva. So obviously when someone's talking to you, they can, disperse some of their saliva out of their mouth, and then that can come in contact with your mucous membranes, like your nose, your eyes, your mouth, things like that. And so along the lines with that, that can also be happening through coughing and sneezing. So if someone coughs in your face or sneezes in your face, or just even coughs without covering in their elbow, that can become airborne. And if you become in contact with the airborne virus, then you have the potential of becoming infected. Along the lines with that, it can be transferred through contaminated surfaces. So if someone, says coughs in their hands and they touch the surface, then someone else who comes and touches the surface and starts touching their mucous membranes could also become infected. So it's really important to make sure you're, preventing from touching your eyes, your nose, your mouth, if you do touch surfaces, and just making sure you're washing your hands very frequently, because also as well, that can live on surfaces for about 3 days, and most of the time that's like stainless steel and metal. So really making sure you're just cleaning a lot of things, if you know there could be a possible, infected area. Alright, symptoms of COVID-19. So there are a few, borderline symptoms, but these are the major ones, and the first one is a high fever. So a high fever would technically be about 100.4 degrees, but anyone that's kind of experienced a fever should be getting some medical help or call for medical advice, because that is a big indicator that you might have the symptoms of coronavirus. Another thing is shortness of breath. So that could be feeling like tightness in your chest. It could be having a hard time breathing, almost like you're feeling like you're suffocating. And if you've ever had an anxiety attack, that kind of is, something that kind of is expressed through shortness of breath is anxiety attacks. Along the lines with that, there's also dry cough. So dry cough is technically, you're not really expelling any mucus from your lungs, but you are kind of having a hard time coughing if your lungs are getting more irritated, things like that. So along the lines, these are most of the symptoms that do come with coronavirus, the bigger symptoms, but there's also, a little bit more rare symptoms like diarrhea, nausea, tiredness, body aches, and pains, things like that. So be aware of those too if you feel like you're experiencing those. Alright, but along the lines with that, symptoms may appear from 12 to 14 days. So you could have been in contact with an infected person and not even know it, and there could be one day where you're feeling really good, and then the next you have all the symptoms of coronavirus. So make sure you're monitoring yourself if you're going out in public places, or if you feel like you may be infected. Just be aware that the symptoms might vary or come a little bit later throughout the time you might have been infected. Alright, let's go over some facts and statistics. So right now we do have quite a few cases worldwide. As of March 2020, March 19th, we've had about 300,000 plus cases worldwide. So that is spreading pretty quickly because we are having international flights, or in the past few months we've had international flights, so it's kind of vary from continent, from countries, things like that. And then overall, worldwide, we've had about 14,000 plus deaths. So, that's not a very high number, but if you think about, what we're experiencing and how this is worldwide, that is kind of adding up, and it is a lot. It's a life, and it means something. So it is kind of sad that we've lost that many people from that, but let's try to prevent that and see what we can do about it. And then throughout the United States, we've had about 33,000 plus cases, but we've only had 400 and about 20 deaths. But, those numbers are growing every day, and we just want to make sure we're monitoring those as well. All right. Good news, though, is we do have a high rate of recovery with coronavirus. It's about 96%. And so overall, out of all the cases worldwide, about 98,000 people have survived from this virus. So there is a high survival rate. I think the mortality rate is about 3.6%. So not very high, but, don't want to take your chances. And along the lines with that, too, those of the age of 60 plus are the most at risk because, they do have those underlying health issues. They are a little bit more health compromised just because, they're aging, they're getting older. And I actually do have a chart to kind of just show a little bit more about how more you're at risk depending on your age. So obviously, the people who are aging older are going to have a more higher chance of getting the coronavirus and possibly dying from the coronavirus. So that's about 14.8% increase of you dying from the virus. And then as you see, as you go down in age, the lower your risk is of getting coronavirus. But most of this was taken from statistics from Wuhan, China. So this was kind of like the first earlier cases. And if you think about people in that area of China, they do have, poor air quality and, the rate of smoking is pretty high. So you kind of have to take that into consideration as you're looking at this data. Let's move on. So a few more things to go into about with data. So the seriousness of your symptoms can also depend as well, depending if you're more at risk or not at risk. So most of the time, most people will just experience mild symptoms. So that's probably the more younger age category from like about 10 to 50, which is a very wide age range. But though 80% people will just experience mild symptoms that feel like a flu. About 13.8% of the people will experience more severe symptoms, which means they have to be hospitalized. And then critical would be, you are having to be in intensive care. And, again, these are more in the higher age range of people who are, more at risk. And then, again, we're talking about specific health issues that do contribute to your severity of coronavirus. So cardiovascular disease is one of the bigger ones that increases your chance of, having fatality rate by 10%, diabetes, respiratory issues, and people who have no underlying issues, 0.9% of you having some serious symptoms with the coronavirus. All right, big thing, big myth, antibiotics do not work on coronavirus because antibiotics only work against bacterial infections, and this is a virus, and that's not going to help. Along the lines with that too, there's currently no vaccine for the coronavirus. Healthcare professionals are working on that every day, and we actually do have a cool story to show that there was a woman, her name is Jennifer Haller, and she was the first person to get a potential coronavirus vaccine, which is awesome. She's awesome. She's, she works from home, she works for a tech company, and she thought, what can I do to help these people who aren't as fortunate as I am to be, safe from my home? So, she decided, go out, get the coronavirus vaccine, and see if she can make a difference and see if it potentially works. All right, let's talk about prevention. So there's a lot of preventive measures that we can take. So obviously, washing your hands is the big one. I know we've been stressing that a lot. What they say by the CDC is to make sure you're washing your hands for about 20 seconds. But don't also forget that there's a few places that most of the time we don't even think about washing. Like, as you can see here, there are a few red marks that people tend to miss. And usually that's like your fingertips, the crevices of your hands that most people don't pay attention to when they're washing their hands when they're really deep cleaning. So really making sure you're getting the full service of your hands, not just, the easy parts. Really making sure you're getting deep into that hand washing. And then another thing, social distancing, making sure you're distancing yourself from public areas, from family. As much as that sucks, we just have to make sure we're doing what we can to stop the spread of coronavirus. Avoid touching your face. You never know if what you touch could be infected or, things like that are on your fingers. So just try not to touch your face. Along the lines with that, cover your mouth when you cough. Even though you might not be infected or don't know you're infected, you know, the disease is airborne, so you don't want to be spreading that to person through the air. Seek medical attention if you need it. Obviously, if you're having some super severe symptoms, but you're still not sure if you have coronavirus, go see a doctor, go see people with intensive tents that are scanning people for coronavirus. And also follow local authority guidelines. So try to stay, out of the hysteria of coronavirus, and making sure that you're following your local guidelines and what's happening within your city, your state. All right, let's go into the conclusion of this. So, obviously, do your part. Do what you can to slow the spread of this virus. So, obviously, COVID-19 is impacting everyone. Literally everyone in this world is being affected by it. Everything is closing down. Everything, is being put to a halt just because of coronavirus, just because we're trying to do as much as we can to stop the spread. So, along the lines with that, practice your preventative measures, making sure that you're washing your hands, you're doing your social distancing, doing what you can to make sure that you know that you're taking part in stopping the spread. And obviously, stay safe. I know it's a crazy world out there, so just make sure that you're keeping your sanity, because, this is hard times. It's hard to, stay positive when so much negative things are going on in the world, but also be healthy. This is not a time to stress and make your immune system drop more than it needs to. Eat healthy diet, make sure you're taking time to relax, make sure you're taking time to depress, looking away from media, things like that. And then I also kind of did want to share a quote with you guys too. So this is by Amit Ray, and he says, "The greatest compassion is the prevention of human suffering through patience, alertness, courage, and kindness." So technically what that means is, this isn't just about you. This is not just affecting you, this is literally affecting everyone. And what you can do as a person to slow the spread is what's going to help, literally human suffering. So, yeah, that's it. That's my presentation. I hope you guys enjoy.